Hello, and thank you for joining us. This is No Soundbites Allowed, and I am your host, Michael Voss, Dragon of the Southern Tier. I'm happy to be here with you today, April 1st of 2022. Yes, it is April Fool's Day, but this is not a joke. We're not going to be talking about a laughing matter at this moment, because we're talking about data mining. We're talking about taking your information and being sold to the highest bidder. And in this case, in particular, it's being sold to those who will use it for elections to be able to get certain candidates elected against your better judgment. We're going to talk a little bit about this, and I think it's very important. But before we get started, we do want to mention, if this is the first time that you are seeing our channel, we welcome you and we thank you for being part of our audience. We want you to know that we do long-form political commentary. And every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we do a live stream with you. We reach out on all the social media that the internet overlords will allow to be able to hear your voice, your tweets, your chats, your phone calls, to tell us what you think about the issues that matter to us all. And we do that because we believe in the First Amendment. We believe that it is a right of everyone in the world, not just in the United States. And whether your government agrees, whether the internet overlords agree or not, we want to hear your voice every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So what happened today? What caught us and made us decide to do this video? This video talking about data mining, about taking your information and selling it off. And in particular, the 2022 elections here in the United States and around the world, to be able to use that information to manipulate you into giving certain political parties, certain political groups, an advantage over others by using your information to their best interest. Well, let's get into it a little bit, because we want to talk about YouGov. We understand that polling is an essential part of elections, but there's a difference between trying to understand the opinion of the public and trying to manipulate the data or gather the data to be able to manipulate public. There is a difference there, and it isn't really subtle. And I think it's very clear. Now, we're talking about YouGov specifically. It's a popular internet-based polling site, and often they have daily polls that claim to not be representative. And more importantly, they use this data and they collect it and they put it out in various articles, which are suspect, to say the least. I believe it's sus, as my friend John would like to mention. And, well, first, let me ask you, do you know who owns YouGov? Because that's an important question. Now, YouGov was created by Stephen Adrian Shakespeare, actually named Stephen Kukowski. And he's one of the creators and he's the CEO of YouGov itself. But YouGov is funded by several organizations. As of November 2020, the company has a 7.6% investment from BlackRock. That's a name you've probably heard a lot about. A company too big to fail, according to Senator Elizabeth Warren. It's also owned by Lion Trust Asset Management and Standard Life Aberdeen, Octopus Investments, and others. So we have somewhat of an understanding of who owns YouGov. Who does YouGov try to benefit? Their shareholders. And their shareholders hold a lot of political power. A lot of political power. Fair enough. We were reminded of a video that was done by the podcast of the Lotus Eaters. And this was on March 6th of 2022, pointing out that 72% of Britons think that YouGov is fake news. Why would they say that? Why would they particularly use 72%? Well, it's a pretty interesting point, and I'm going to show you why. When you look at YouGov, what you see consistently, and you can do this yourself. Matter of fact, I'll refresh it for you right here. Just simply YouGov 72%. And what do we see? We see a series of polls that were done by YouGov. A snap poll, 72% of English adults, 72% of Britons, think climate change is real. 72% of consumers prefer videos. 72% of Americans believe transgenders. On and on. 72% of patients view online reviews. It's interesting that consistently and repeatedly, YouGov has this 72% target. And in every case, when they're saying that it's 72% of their respondents, it almost always seems to align with a government policy that happens to also align with a progressive ideology. It is so odd. And it's one of the things that were brought up by, of course, the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, that they identified how consistently that YouGov will have 72% of people who fall in line with the government and fall in line with progressive ideology. So they are, again, sus. And that's a given. We understand that that's something that they do. So they are not their legitimacy is somewhat in question. But then we saw something today, April 1st. We would love to think that it's a joke, but it's not. It's reality. YouGov came out with a recent poll. And that poll happened to be, from jobs to guns, what issues are most important to you? Seems like a great subject. Seems like an interesting question. How would people react to that? Well, we went to take the actual poll itself. And what do we see? It starts off with pick 5 ideas. There's no question here. There's no issue that they are trying to address. In fact, they are going through a treasure trove of ideas, of political talking points that they want to identify first. And here's the problem. It seems somewhat innocuous. It's different than most of their polls, which gives you a scenario in which they are asking the question about, as we have shown on this program before. But this time, they're not. They're just digging for data. Here are issues that are important in the 2022 midterm elections. This is important in elections around the world. Here are some top issues in the United States. Which ones do you find to be important? Which ones would any elected official, any candidate want to know about? Which ones are the parties supposed to focus on? And so they ask us about taxes and spending, immigration, jobs in the economy, guns, healthcare, education, civil liberties, climate change, national security, foreign policy, abortion, COVID, civil rights, crime, criminal justice. That's a very interesting group of questions, of topics. Let me take a look. So taxes and government spending, pretty straightforward. So immigration, is that pro-immigration? Is that in terms of legal immigration, illegal immigration? Which one? Jobs in the economy, pretty straightforward. Guns, is that in favor of the Second Amendment? Is that against Second Amendment? Is that in terms of reforming the Second Amendment, as some would like to do? What exactly do you mean by guns? Healthcare, also a big question there. Civil liberties, that's a wide open subject with so many nuances to it. How about climate change? Well, that's pretty straightforward. National security, exactly what do you mean? Because that could be falling under immigration. It has many aspects to it. Foreign policy, what aspects of foreign policy? Okay, let's go on. Now, another thing that I noticed in this poll, and the first thing, and again, they like to say, this is not accurate. Okay, it may not be accurate, but in looking at it, absolutely no one who took the poll so far, which was released today, April 1st, absolutely no one had any concern about civil rights. Absolutely no one taking the poll had a concern about crime. No one. These are major issues. No one had any question about abortion, one of the top hot button issues in the United States for the last 50 years. Really? That seems, again, sus. Okay, so what is the one issue you wish Democrats and Republicans would focus on? Now, again, we're looking at an election question. What issue do you want the political parties, the major political parties in the United States, to focus on in the 2022 election. Not only is this suspect, this is pretty direct. This is gathering information to be sold to the various parties. Okay. And so the results: taxes and government spending, immigration, climate change, jobs, healthcare, guns, civil liberties, foreign policy, education, national security. Again, no one's interested in abortion. Didn't we just have the Supreme Court hearings for Judge Jackson in which abortion was a major issue and a major question? How about crime, which was also a major focus of questions during the Supreme Court hearings for nominee Judge Jackson? That's zero. Civil rights, which would be in part the entire conversation about being an activist judge, about the progressive ideology. That was a huge topic, and no one in their poll is concerned about that at all? That seems odd. Criminal justice reform, again, another major issue that was just in the headlines 2 weeks ago. Okay, let's go on. In head-to-head matchups, we want you to know which of these issues you think the government should prioritize right now. Immigration versus guns. Again, is that legal immigration? Is that illegal immigration? Is that pro-Second Amendment? Is that anti-Second Amendment? What does that mean? Why is that the head-to-head comparison? Wouldn't you want to say immigration versus national security? Because those two issues are aligned. They do match up. But instead, they're saying immigration or guns. Okay, that's a hard one to decide. How about civil rights versus healthcare? Well, again, those don't really align. Those aren't issues that naturally are put one against the other or necessarily have anything to do with each other. Why would you put it civil rights versus healthcare? And what aspects of civil rights, what aspects of healthcare? Okay, going on. National security versus jobs in the economy. Why would you have to choose between those two? They aren't mutually exclusive. You can improve the jobs in the economy and improve the national security. In fact, improving, say, the southern border of the United States, you can improve the job and the economy by reducing the illegal immigrants that are coming into the United States, these illegal aliens who are working off the books and in the shadows, which affect our economy. So they're not mutually exclusive. It's not one or the other. They're kind of one and the same in certain aspects. Crime versus education. Well, actually, don't we have many, many, many studies that have been done over many, many decades that show us that the more education you have, the less crime that you have? Why would you want to compare or set as in opposition crime versus education when we know that crime is a result of a lack of education? Wouldn't they be together? Aren't they similar issues? Don't they have an alignment? Okay. Abortion versus taxes. Why would abortion and taxes ever be compared? Why are we comparing these things? Ukraine versus COVID recovery. Again, two issues that have nothing to do with each other, not even in the same realm. What am I getting from these questions, these pairings? Well, it looks like this is suspect, and what they're trying to do is find issues, hot buttons that can be brought up in a candidate's re-election or election campaign that they can focus on, that the political parties can target certain issues to try and get a bigger reaction out of potential voters. That's what it appears to be. And they're trying to get an overall sense on issues that are important to people. Crime is important to the American people. Education is important, especially if we look at parents who are going over to their school boards. This is an important issue. Which one's more important? Which one should various political parties who are going to spend money on crime and education. This is a big topic for the 2022 midterm elections. They're going to spend money on ads on both of these. Which one should they spend more money on? Which one, national security and jobs in the economy, are major issues? They're both going to be on the 2022 midterm campaigns of candidates across the political spectrum. Which one should more money be spent on? Now we're starting to see it. Why are these things being paired up? Because this is where the political candidates are going to be spending their money. Which one of these should be more money spent on? Which one should have more commercials and 30-second sound bites pushed out to the public to manipulate the public to get a better result in the 2022 midterm elections? That's why these are paired together. Not because they are aligned, but because these are issues that are going to be topics and they are a focus of the public, and which one deserves more money. That's what this is about. This is data mining, straight up data mining, trying to let the various political parties who are paying for this poll, presumably, to be able to identify where they need to target their money for the biggest bang for their buck. Let's go on a little further. Should the U.S. focus more on domestic policy or foreign policy, or a mix of both? Well, it depends. Which particular policy are we speaking about? How do these policies, much of the domestic policy of the United States affects the world? As an example, oil and gas energy. Well, we have the lease to be able to develop a potential oil and gas reserve. But we also need to have leases that are going to allow to have a road to that lease site, a pipeline, if any oil and gas are found there, a pipeline to get to the drilling and bring that over to where we can collect it and process it. This is important. So domestic policy, though, in terms of oil and gas, as an example, affect the rest of the world. Because if the United States is a net importer, well, that's going to raise energy prices around the world. If we're a net exporter, that can help reduce that. It can affect, as an example, Germany, who is reliant on Russian oil and gas. If the United States is an exporter, we can export that to our allies in Germany and reduce their reliance on Russian oil and gas, which has geopolitical implications. So while it's a domestic policy, it has a foreign policy impact. The question is very vague, but again, it's not meant to give us an understanding. It's not meant to identify where the public stands. It's meant to understand where politicians, those up for election in 2022, should target their money, how they should word their commercials in the 30 seconds that they're going to barrage you to try and convince you that you should vote for one person over another. When choosing a politician to vote for, which is more important to you? This is about elections. This question also helps to reveal what they are seriously looking to do. What's more important for who you vote for? This is about voting. This is about the election. This is about how the campaigns are going to reach out to you. The issues they stand for. This means that all of the political parties, all of the candidates need to focus on themselves. They need to make you believe that they stand for X issue, which has been established by these questions on which issues are more important, which ones should get most of the attention, which ones should get most of the ads, and that's going to be presented to you. And these candidates now know that not only are these the issues, but that they need to show you or explain or make you believe that they stand by this position just like you do. Which of these political parties do you think are the most aligned to the issues that matter to you? Who should be spending more money on commercials? Who has the advantage and who needs to spend more money? Is it Democrats, Republicans, Libertarians, the Green Party? Who? Someone else? Who should be spending more money? Who should be the bad guy in these commercials? Who do they need to target? That's what this is about. Okay, let's go on. Do you feel like local politicians care about your issues most? Again, what should these 30-second ads, what should this propaganda be targeting to be able to get your vote, to manipulate you so that they can target those 30-second ads to make sure they're getting just the right emotional response so that you give them your vote so that they can maintain power. And thinking about President, and this is why I think that this is about Democrats, why this is the progressive Democrats who have funded this question. Do you feel like Joe Biden cares about the issues that are important to you? Why would we care? What does it have to do with the other questions that have been on this list? You have been asking us about issues. You've been asking us about prioritizing the issues. You're asking us to identify how to sell things to us best. That has nothing to do with any particular candidate. And it could be anyone who is asking that question. That could be applied to Republicans, Libertarians, Democrats, progressives. It could apply to anyone. But now we know, and this gives away, this is being funded, I believe, and I would suggest, by Democrats and progressives because it's about Joe Biden. Why specifically? He's not up for election in 2022. He has nothing to do with the midterm elections other than he is the face of a political party, the Democratic Party, which is in trouble according to every news media poll, every ranking system that is out there. Democrats are in trouble in 2022, and Joe Biden is their face. So that's why this is important. This is a Democrat data mining exercise. And the answer most people have is no, Joe Biden doesn't care about the issues that the average American, average person, he doesn't care. And we've seen that many times in many different things. And so finally, they ask us, what do you think? To which we said, exactly which party paid you for this opposition research? This is blatantly political data mining. It appears to be for the Democrats, and there is serious bias in the questions. And that is absolutely true. This is one big setup. YouGov, who are already suspect in the way that they collect data, the way that they present the data, the way the data consistently matches up with governments and in particular progressive ideology, they're already suspect on that. They have already been called out. It is so obvious that other content creators on the social media have identified and shown examples of how much they have a bias. And now we are looking at exactly that. In the United States, these are Democrats that are data mining so that they can better put together a campaign to get your vote. I really ask people, save this. Look at this over the summer. Throughout the summer, when the ads start coming out for the 2022 midterm elections, which will be probably in August and into September, when people come back from their vacations, you're going to see ads. And I guarantee that there's going to be, if this poll is going to be critical in the way they are going to start targeting you, the issues that they are going to emphasize, and the way that they are going to manipulate their commercials, their 30-second ads, their bullet points to be able to try and emphasize the connection of that candidate to standing for issues and issues that you have prioritized. I'm not going to tell you that any company shouldn't make money. They should. And it is perfectly fine for YouGov to get money from progressives if they wish to, or from Democrats, or from anyone else. But I think it would be more honest for YouGov to tell people that they are data mining your information, that they are using this to be able to influence elections, that this is being, and I'm guessing here, funded by a political party to be able to better help their candidates and the way that they're going to target you in election advertising and propaganda. We at least should get the honesty of this, that this has been paid for, that this is meant to manipulate us. It's obvious if we stop for a moment and look at it. If we're paying attention to what's happened in the past and we understand who is involved, like BlackRock. We understand that there is a vested interest here. YouGov is hoping that they can benefit their, let's call it political bedmates, people who are in bed with their same ideology, their same goals. And we'll probably see a poll coming out soon showing 72% of Americans believe something that's perfectly aligned with the government and the progressive ideology. But what do you think? Do you think we're wrong? Do you think we've overreached here? Did we miss something? Is this not obviously for the Democratic Party, the progressive elements of the Democratic Party? Is this for Republicans? Is this something you think that is just perfectly fair and nope, has no influence? Do you think that data mining, that this wasn't blatant? We'd like to hear what you have to say. And we look forward to hearing your comments every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time when we do a live stream with you on this and other issues that affect everyone around the world. Thank you. You have a good day.